Happy birthday, Luka Doncic. Our boy turns 25 years old today. Hard to believe after the Mavericks drafted him out of Madrid in 2018 that this guy's already in his sixth year in the NBA. He's going to have 5 first-team All-NBA selections, 5 All-Star games, 4 of them as a starter. He's given us countless amounts of memories, and we will talk about the game last night. Don't worry, I know we have to get through it as a Mavericks fan base, and we'll suffer. But for now, wish Luka a happy birthday down in the comments. Spam HBD. We've got a loaded show for you today, so be sure to subscribe, and let's get right into it. Welcome into Mavericks Today. I am Jeffrey Kuberstein. Harrison Graham will be back with us here in just a bit, so I just wanted to take over the reins here for a little bit. We will get to the Mavs versus Cavs game in just a moment, but I wanted to talk about this because this was kind of a subject on Mavericks Twitter over the past few days, and I wanted to hit on it. So is it a possibility that the Mavericks could bring back Dennis Smith Jr. after the Nets fired head coach Jacques Vaughn and they promoted Kevin Ollie, who was their assistant, to interim head coach? Smith's minutes have been cut a little bit. He's averaging less than 15 minutes per game in his short time with Kevin Ollie as the head coach in around 7 games. But when he was back in Dallas after the Mavericks selected him with the 9th pick in the 2017 NBA draft, Smith averaged 14.5 points, almost 5 assists, 42% from the field, but that was after his rookie season when he shot under 40%. He actually was about 44% before the Mavericks traded him to the Knicks in the Kristaps Porzingis deal, and his career has kind of gone a bunch of different ways. You know, the Mavericks traded him to the Knicks. The Knicks sent him out to Portland. He spent some time in Charlotte. Now he's with Brooklyn, and he has really transformed himself into a defensive stopper at the point guard position. And he always had defensive upside. He has super long arms. He has very freaky athletic ability, and he's always had the ability to really guard point guards at an elite level, and he's finally found that. And I think it's helped extend his career because there was a point where we thought Dennis Smith might have been out of the league there for a while. But at this point, he could be a guy that could help the Mavericks team. And if we go back to a couple days ago when Brad Townsend tweeted that the Mavericks are definitely looking to fill that last roster spot with someone who can help them, I do think Dennis Smith is a guy that could help the Dallas Mavericks. Now, I'll say this. He has not been bought out. And Friday is the final day that players can be bought out if they still want to be eligible to play in the playoffs with their new team. I do think it's a possibility that the Brooklyn Nets buy out Dennis Smith and that he becomes a free agent, but he has not been bought out yet. So this is all moot if he isn't bought out, but I think if he is, he could definitely be an option. And when you take a look at the final roster spot for the Mavericks, I think point guard is your biggest need because you have Luka and you have Kyrie. When those guys are out, who else is going to handle the ball? We think Dante Exum's going to play tonight against Toronto. We've been saying that for the last 2 weeks. If he actually comes back and plays and is healthy and can do what he did in the first half of the season where he was one of the Mavs' 3 or 4 most important players, then you don't really need a point guard. But right now, I have no faith that Dante Exum can actually do it. Wing, I would say, is number 2 when you look at a guy like Markieff Morris. And there's a couple of other wings that are on the free agent buyout market, but those don't really move me. And then you have a big as well. Mavs don't need a big. You have Daniel Gafford. You have Derek Lively. You have Dwight Powell. You have Maxi Kleber, who we'll talk about in a minute. But I think at this point, I think DSJ could be bought out by Friday's deadline so he could be eligible for the postseason. And if I'm the Mavericks, I would have interest in that, man. I think he knows Luka. He knows Kidd. He knows the offense. And I think it would be an interesting fit for the Mavericks and a little reunion for Dennis Smith Jr. here in Dallas. If he is available, would you bring DSJ back to Dallas? Type S for sign, type P for pass. I think I'm going to type my P, man. I really believe that Dennis Smith could give something to this team that the Mavericks don't have right now. So I would type my S for sign. I would bring him in here on a veteran minimum. We'll get to the game here in just a minute, but had to bring up today's sponsor, which is PrizePicks, the best way to play daily fantasy sports. You can play with celebrities like Sugar Sean O'Malley. Football season is over, but basketball season is here, so stay locked in with PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Today, we've been giving you PrizePicks projections throughout the entire Dallas Mavericks season. We have some more tonight for the game against the Toronto Raptors north of the border. I got Luka Doncic more than 33.5 points. I kind of think that's a lock. He averages 34, so if you're looking for something easy to play on PrizePicks, give me the more on Luka Doncic points. And Kyrie Irving's been on a heater, 30 last night against the Cavs. I think he'll have another big night against the Toronto Raptors. Give me the more on 27.5 points for Kyrie. It's super easy. All you have to do is just pick 2 to 6 players. You put your projections in and watch the money flow in. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Because we love and we care about you, we'll put that in the comments and the description of today's show. One more time, it's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Oh, big text. This one was brutal, man. It was an absolute brutal. The Mavs lose a heartbreaker to the Cleveland Cavaliers. It was my birthday yesterday, too, so this was a really sour birthday present. But Max Strus hits a 60-foot buzzer beater after P.J. Washington put the Mavs up 1 with less than 3 seconds left. Strus was just unbelievable in the fourth quarter, man. I mean, it's one of those you don't even really get mad about. You just kind of tip your hat to and say, hey, great shot, man. The Mavericks would have loved to have that win because on this road trip, you'd really like to split. And now you're 0-2. You're going to Toronto, and then you have Boston on Friday. So it's going to be tough for the Mavericks to split. It kind of makes this game against Toronto even more important. But let's talk about the game last night real quick. Mavs had 115 points. They shot 49.4% from the field. Pretty brutal, 8 of 29 from 3, but, you know, that's kind of, the Mavericks live and die by the 3. It's what they do. If we could go to Luka's stats first there, Tex, I just want to talk about him. He was fantastic in this game, and I'm just not sure what more the guy has to do. I mean, 45 points, 9 rebounds, 14 assists, 17 of 29 from the field, 6 of 11 from 3. So what you're telling me is the Mavericks went 8 of 29 from 3, and Luka had 6 of them. If Luka is your best three-point shooter, man, that's brutal. He also had, he played in 41 minutes, and the Mavs also, again, play on a back-to-back tonight. So, yeah, I mean, it was, I'm not sure what more Luka can do here. He also got a BS technical foul. His 13th technical foul of the season, by the way, and if you get 16, you have that automatic 1-game suspension. The Mavs have roughly, let's call it 25 games left, so Luka is on track to be suspended for at least 1 game. That's something to keep an eye out on. Josh Green, not much to write home about. 3 of 8 from the field, 7 points, 1 board, 1 assist. He really didn't do a whole lot last night. It was kind of one of those Josh Green is quiet games, and he just was basically irrelevant in the game. P.J. Washington, who got the go-ahead bucket for the Mavericks, he's just hasn't really been able to figure it out on the offensive end. Did make a 3-pointer last night, was 5 of 8 from the field. He's really just provided the defense for this Mavericks team, and I think the offense will come at some point. Tex, if we could go to Kyrie next, I just want to highlight Kyrie because of how fantastic he was. 30 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 12 of 24 from the field, 5 of 8 from 3 for Kyrie. And when your top 2 guys score a combined 75 points, what are the Mavericks supposed to do, man? I mean, you expect that's a game to win. Basically, the name of the game right now is keeping teams under 120 points. Well, Cleveland scored 120 or 121, and the Mavericks ended up losing. So it is what it is. Tim Hardaway Jr., when is this guy going to get benched, man? When are we? I'm just absolutely done with Tim, man. 4 points. He doesn't do anything anymore. It's time to play Jaden Hardy. I really would like to see Jaden Hardy in this rotation, and if Dante Exum's back tonight, I'd like to see him in the rotation as well. And just some final overall thoughts. The whole thing with the big rotation is a little interesting to me. Daniel Gafford played less than 10 minutes last night. Maxi Kleber has ended up closing the games for the Mavericks for the last 3 or 4. Derek Lively is still coming back from that nasal fracture. He's playing, but he's obviously not fully healthy. I think it's interesting that Kidd trusts Maxi to be the closer. He is the most, versatile of those 3 guys, and he's the one that can pop out to the three-point line and make the occasional shot. So for now, Maxi Kleber's closing ball games. I think it depends on the matchup, but Maxi's going to be your closer for now, and I'm not sure that changes throughout the rest of the season, including the playoffs. That'll be it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Shout out to my boy producer Tex for on the ones and twos. We will see you soon with another episode of Mavericks Today.